Good morning. We are about to start. When the choir sing, can you please stand? The procession is coming in. Thank you.
Please remain standing for the national anthem.
What it goes where I forget.
sound to call to come together, and united we shall stand. Let us live and strive for freedom in South Africa. our land. Thank you. You may be seated. I now invite Dr. Zwakala, our program director for today, to continue the program. Dr. Zwakala.
Good morning, fellow colleagues. Good morning to the Vice Chancellor and the entire executive management, Deputy Vice Chancellors, Dean, Registrars present, to our visitors, MPs, members of council, and most importantly, the students present. Good morning to our host, Department of Student Affairs. I think out of the entire session today, I've probably got the easiest task to do, and I've got all the confidence that together we'll execute. Colleagues, we meet in a very critical space and time, critical and equally exciting as South Africans and as a new South Africa, which is just about 30 years old. Fortunately, as a university, we're quite an important microcosm of society for a number of reasons, but largely because society depends on us. It depends on this space for us to give solutions to societal ills. So therefore, we need to create an environment of engagement. We need to be patient with engagement, and we need to embrace it. We need an environment of engaged students. Hence why we're here today. A student parliament is quite critical, and it informs and should inform largely where society goes. It should inform its direction. We need to create a space where we embrace dialogue as a university community at large, and particularly students. So therefore, I'm saying students should be intellectually radical. And being intellectually radical requires patience and embracing dialogue in a university environment. However, being intellectually radical starts with successfully seeing to or addressing the academic project, our primary reason for being here. That's the base. We need to be here and do what we're here to do and do it successfully. After that, other elements such as we need to be reading leaders. We need to be reading student leaders. We need to be reading widely. Read widely up until we found a niche in society where we can make a contribution as student leaders. Ultimately, what distinguishes you as student leaders from an ordinary person in society, it's your intellectual capacity. And the best way of creating a conducive learning environment wherein one can be intellectually capacitated, can be intellectually radical, is precisely through dialogue and engagement. Lastly, colleagues, student leaders, comrades, you need to take your rightful place in society. Our country is in a critical stage of its democracy. This country needs you, so therefore you have an obligation to build here. Acts of espionage and what sometimes appears to be treasonous acts, those needs to be addressed by you as students. take positions in society, take positions and stance in society, and articulate them towards contributing to this very society. Importantly, take informed positions in higher education. Take informed position, complement higher education. Where the need arises, contradict higher education towards contributing to the same higher education. Because as I've said earlier on, society depends on these very institutions to solve its ills. Contributing to higher education will lead to what I call being radically intellectual. With those few words, colleagues, I'd like to welcome everyone. I'd like to welcome guests that have just walked in. Our first item on the program, and I trust everyone's got a program either online or physically. We're going to call on interfaith prayers, and I've only got a mediation session. We've only got 10 minutes, colleagues. And perhaps, VC, it's quite important, colleagues, that before these interfaith prayers and meditation sessions, let's just give just a moment of silence for the tragedy that has happened in Georgia. Thank you. Colleagues, interfaith prayers, I'd like to call upon you now.
Masi Kamaksheni, Thokozani, Khanya Lisedi, kuncinci nje endizawukwenza kukucama kusha sicela amanyanga phakathi kwethu, amanyanga asingqongileyo, amanyanga asithweleyo uba sikwazi uzohlala apho ukuthi mawabe phakathi kwethu kule ndawo sikuyo, kulo mnquba sikuwo, ukuze ze kunciphe thina, ze kuphakame bona, ze bekwazi ukuthi le ndlela sizayihamba sisesi student parliament sakule CPUT, ze basingqonge, ze bakhunge ngaso. Masicama kusheni. Khosi.
Amago. Now, colleagues, we're going to quickly move on to, I'm going to be a very progressive program director. Time management, siyabulela, kusiswethu. Now, we're going to move on quickly to the preamble that will be read by CPUT students. Students?
Good morning, everyone. Standing before you is Lindy Sindelo. I'm a PhD student in the field of public administration, and I'm also a resident student assistant in the Department of Student Affairs. I will be reading the Afrikaans preamble. Ons, die studenten van die Kaapse Skiereiland, Universiteit van Tegnologie, is saamgebind deur ons verbintenis van 'n nie-rassige, nie-seksiste, demokratiese Suid-Afrika, bestaande uit diverse kulturele, godsdienstige, geografiese en ekonomiese agtergronde. Ons is bewus van die vorige geslags- en rassewanbalanse en beperkte toegang tot onderwys. Ons is ook bewus van ons verantwoordelikheid as 'n belanghebbende wat die belange van studente aan die universiteit verteenwoordig. Ons bevorder en handhaaf die visie en missie van die universiteit en dra betekenisvol by tot die beleidsontwikkeling in die strategiese rigting van die universiteit en handhaaf die oppergesag van die gereg binne die universiteit, handhaaf die beginsels van deursigtigheid, aanspreeklikheid en responsiviteit in studentebestuursake. Werk aan die skepping van 'n studentevriendelike omgewing wat akademiese uitnemendheid bevorder en respekteer die diversiteit wat gepaard gaan met pluraliteit in 'n linguistiese agtergronde, sosio-ekonomiese status, kultuur, godsdiens, ras en geslag en 'n studenteverteenwoordigende liggaam te vestig wat sy magtige en wettigheid van die studentegemeenskap verkry. Ons erken dat die CPUT Institutional Student Parliament as ons gesamentlike pogings tot etiese leierskap en 'n goeie bestuur. Dankie.
Greetings. Mine is to read the English preamble. We, the students of Kent Peninsula University of Technology, born together by our commitment of a non-racial, non-sexist, democratic South Africa, drawn from a diverse cultural, religious, geographic, and economical backgrounds, conscious of past gender and racial imbalances, and limited access to education, conscious of our responsibility as a stakeholder representing the interest of students at the university, promote and uphold the vision and mission of the university, meaningfully contribute towards a policy development in the strategic direction of the university, and upholding the rule of law within the university, uphold the principles and transparency, accountability, and responsiveness student governance matters, work toward the creation of a student-friendly environment that promotes academic excellence and respects the diversity that comes with the plurality, linguistic backgrounds, socio-economic status, culture, religion, and race and gender, and establish a student representative body that derives its power and legitimacy from a student community. We therefore acknowledge the CPUT Institutional Student Parliament as a collective effort towards the ethical leadership and good governance. Thank you.
Ndibhotisa kumzi onsundu lo umi apha ngu-iviwe ngejani. Thina abafundi be-Cape Peninsula University of Technology sibambisene ngokuzibophelela kwethu kuMzantsi Afrika ongenacalucalulo ngokobuhlanga, ngokwesini nowedemokhrasi. Abathathwe kwinkcubeko ezahlukeneyo, inkolo, ijografi kunye nezoqoqosho. Ukuqonda kwangaphambili ukungalingani ngokwesini nobuhlanga kunye nokufikelela okunganeliselwanga kwimfundo. Siluqonda uxanduva lwethu njengabachaphazeleki abamele iimfuno zabafundi beyunivesithi. Ukukhuthaza nokugcina umbono kunye nomqophiso wedyunivesithi. Igalelo elibonakalayo kuphuhliso lomgaqo-nkqubo kwicala leqhinga leyunivesithi. Kunye ukugcina ulawulo lomthetho kwiyunivesithi, ukuthobela imithetho-siseko yokwenziwa kwezinto elubala yokuphendula nokuphendula imiba yolawulo lwabafundi, ukusebenzela ekudaleni imeko-bume evumela abafundi ukuba ikhuthaze ukugqwesa ezifundweni, kwaye zihloniphe iiyantlukwano eziza neemvelaphi zeelwimi ezininzi, isimo sentlalo noqoqosho, inkcubeko, inkolo, uhlanganisini, kunye nokuseka iqumrhu elimele abafundi elifumana amagunya alo kunye nokuba semthethweni kuluntu lwabafundi. Ngoko ke siyayivuma iPalamente yabafundi yeziko lase-CPUT njengeenzame zethu zentsebenziswano kubunkokheli obusesikweni nolawulo olululo. Enkosi.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful, colleagues. I think, as I've said earlier on, we're quite in an interesting time as a country where we need to celebrate language, celebrate culture, and most importantly, celebrate diversity. And I think we're at the epitome of diversity as an institution. I'll just translate the first speaker. Said Khase, lesal almal bakre vandaag. That's what she said. Okay. Beautiful colleagues, beautiful. I get inspired being raised by a woman. I truly get inspired by young black female excellence. I'd like to ask your age, ma'am, but I'll do that after. No, not that. Not that. A PhD student, colleagues, PhD young female in our institution. We've indeed come a long way as a country, and our institution plays a critical role, as I've said earlier on. We're quite an important element of society as university and the CPUT in particular. What's even more pleasing, VC, is the sense of identity we've managed to build as a university. I think we've got a mantra that is called oneness, obunye. And the preamble, and what sounded like a pledge by the students, it's an ownership of that mantra, sibanye, oneness. I think it's powerful. And being a person that's been around for quite some time in the institution, I've seen the institution grow where it is, and I think we've rightfully claimed our space in the sector. We've rightfully claimed our space in higher education. Now, next, colleagues, we're going to have a word of welcome by the VC. I've said earlier on, I have been around for quite some time. So I was a student leader when the VC was DVC. Don't ask me how many years ago. I'll just give away my age. Okay. Knowing him and how far he's taken this institution is quite exciting for some of us that were student leaders. Again, student leaders, I was sitting right where you are sitting many years ago. I'm produced by this same institution, and I'm currently contributing towards this same institution. Now, when I'm saying the current VC was DVC then, as student leaders, I'm saying to you, you've got a role. You've got a fundamental obligation to contribute. But before getting to contributing to the institution, to the sector, to society at large, it takes some training. Okay. I said we should seek to complement each other. But getting to complementing each other as student leaders, as a university, it may take a certain environment characterized by dialogue and contradictions, as I've said. You know, I certainly have contradicted the VC as a student leader back then. But then you soon then realize that you don't know what you don't know until you know it. That's the kind of a person he is. He will tell you something, but you don't know it. You know but xa ekuxelela omnye umuntu mhlawumbe awuzuvuma phambi kwakhe, and then go back binyanzelele chebule. You know. So, colleagues, in those few words, can we just put our hands together and welcome our principal and vice chancellor, Prof. Labo.
Thank you very much, Program Director Dr. Zwakala, for the very warm and kind introduction. Members of CPUT Council here present, chairs of council committees of the institution. I'm also aware that we got to Parliament from sister institution, University of Stellenbosch, as well as the University of Cape Town. President of Convocation, Mrs. Oqikwa, Dr. William Mapena, Chairperson of Student Services Committee of Council. And I've seen in our midst that we also have Advocate Harper. Advocate, welcome. The man has played a critical role to where we are today. Clergy, faith leaders, the mighty CPUT choir. I'm always amazed, maestro, by how they sang this university song. Every now and then I feel like crying. The CPUT student leadership, who are here present, local SRCs, central SRC, CPUT staff and students, our online guests, and I always say, I'm sure I will be forgiven if I omit a particular individual. And I rely on two maxims of law, de minimis non curat lex, and in dubio pro reo. Good morning to you all. After years of hard work, greed, and sheer determination, our dream came through. A dream that has been unnecessarily deferred for perhaps for far too long, overcoming insurmountable odds to become who we are as an institution. We are the main characters in the South African national system of innovation. We always talk about universities being an integral part of the South African national system of innovation. But take it from me, this institution is one of the main characters in the national system of innovation. We are brave, curious, determined to overcome the odds. And today it has proven that it can be done. We have always dreamt of doing something audacious. This institutional student parliament is part and parcel of our SRC constitution, is there. And today we have realized the full implementation of that constitution. I remember the night and evenings that we spent together in writing the first constitution with some of the SLCs that I will not actually mention. 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, we were here. Advocate Harper was here. And we had the first fully fledged constitution in 2018. And it has subsequently been revised. But I'm happy to say today we are witnessing the full implementation of the SRC constitution and strengthening the governance at this institution. We never compromise our self-story, and as I always say, we acknowledge all the hard work because we know that nothing happened ex nihilo. Ex nihilo nihil fit. It was amor et mele et fele es fecundismus. There were tears, there were contradictions, but ultimately we prevailed. We know that we are looking forward for this change. And as they say, change is problematic. But unfortunately, change is the only constant. We know this change that you are talking about is very hard at the beginning, it's messy in the middle, but it's gorgeous at the end. It requires taking that particular first step. But you must actually mind your step because at a point of inflection, you may be lost and not reach your goal. When we were coming up with all these particular ideas of improving student governance, we are not ideating, because we know ideation without execution is nothing more than hallucination. Ideation without execution is nothing more than delusion. In the SRC Constitution, we talk about Central General Student Council, or CGSC, the highest decision-making body of the SRC. This indeed completed the implementation of the SRC Constitution. Program Director, Dr. Zwakala, I believe we are no more victim of broken promises with this achievement. We are, however, part of the inescapable network of mutuality tied in a single garment of destiny, which is what you refer to as ubunye, or oneness. We believe in the power of one smart CPUT. You know, you recall in the 90s, there used to be that theme tune of SABC1. Simunye, we are one. Those who are old enough, you recall that. It's a great day for us as the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. We believe that the Student Parliament will inter alia hold the SRC accountable and transparent, serve as an advisory body to the SRC on policy matters, propel CPUT to majestic heights of knowledge bankers, consciousness, and brotherhoods or sisterhoods. Keep the SRC and its substructure accountable, transparent, and rooted in the principles and values that are enshrined in the SRC Constitution. Program Director, I'm looking forward to the Student Parliament program and opportunities of practical experiences to students on democracy, its responsibility and accountability, and on supremacy of the law. Standing here today, I'm filled with joy. Our Student Parliament will be the bastion of good governance, a citadel of hope, unity, and progress. We challenge ourselves, as I indicated way back, and today we are saying we have made it. Advocate Harper, you know this journey. We have made it today. Now is the time for all good men and women to come to the aid of their university. In conclusion, Program Director, victim recites problems, leaders present solutions. My sincere hope is that the Institutional Student Parliament will offer the university a game-changing solution to reach our absolute height, best, and quickly. And it's very important that this will be happening in these turbulent times, uncertain times in the world, and indeed in South Africa. We always talk about the VUCA world, the VUCA world, that we are operating in that particular VUCA world, the VUCA times. And as others say, they say, ons leef en die snel uitdagende, veranderende Suid-Afrika, waarin veranderende die enigste constant geword het. Ladies and gentlemen, life has no remote. Get up and change it yourself. And I'm calling upon all you CPUT students that get up and change this institution and assist us to build, indeed, a smart university. Keep on creating futures. As we say, the future ripens in the past, so the past can rot in the future. I must say, if we ignore this, we'll face the sad cost of mediocrity, because spectacular rewards need leadership mastery. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome all of you, and it will be fitting to say to you, Enkosi yemsebenzi yenu, Enkosi mawethu ndiyabulela, magwande. Thank you.
Yeah, colleagues, as I've said, I'm going to assist those that I'll translate that small bit in Afrikaans. So the VC just said essentially that, yeah, the June exam has been deferred to October. Colleague, exam, yo, I don't want to go back there. Okay. Yeah, we're talking about exam, VC. Before I respond a little bit to what you've just said. In my days as a security leader, I think one of our first, was it called the principle or pillar, something along those lines. The first one was academic excellence. Yeah, with a number of them. But the first one was academic excellence. Now, academic excellence, I've said, obviously it equips you with a number of things. If you're not excelling academically, you will not have the capacity or the conscience to be accountable, as the VC was saying. Now, what's exciting about this student parliament is that it's a governance platform of creating a sense of accountability. Colleagues, we live in a society where accountability is just but a secondary matter. We live in a society, Amasela, who don't account to anyone. Because they don't account to anyone. Now, this student parliament will provide precisely a panacea to those challenges. Okay. And lastly, we see colleagues, we need to, from this parliament, I really urge you to, let's devise solutions. There are many commentators, President Soikiwa, that largely political commentators, except for one, of course, that they go into this prime media and they would re-emphasize we want solutions. We largely know our problems as a country. You would know the problems in the sector and higher education. Let us adopt a mindset that is solution-driven. People get to platforms and they regurgitate, they re-emphasize things that we know and to appear clever. And I'm saying largely, my colleagues in the community space, we know. Former leaders, talk about national leaders, they go to television, they tell us about, we know our problems. So this student parliament needs to play that critical role. Let's adopt a culture and an ethos of being solution-driven. Now, talking about solutions, colleagues, we're going to have the next speaker now, Mr. Lwandile. So I want to tell you a short story in 60 seconds, because I can. I'm in charge. This is a true story. There was a surgeon, a neurosurgeon in Tygerberg. I know because a friend of mine is there. This neurosurgeon, his father was a neurosurgeon, a retired medical doctor. Now, one day this boy had to lead a brain operation. Obviously with a couple of colleagues around him, but then he was the lead. Things got complicated. He consulted with the colleagues around him, but they did not make sense to him. So therefore he called his father. He said, Dad, it's getting complicated. His father said, in short, What are you seeing now? I'm seeing that. His father over the cell phone said, cut that, okay, stitch that, cut that, now, so on and so forth. So essentially, short story is that this boy that grew up with a father that was a neurosurgeon conducted a brain operation over a cell phone. What am I trying to get to here? We are surrounded by resource. What do I mean resource? We're surrounded by people who we can learn from, but we just perhaps don't know or we don't accept it, that we can learn from. Colleagues, Mr. Shakiyuka was sitting right where you are sitting many years ago. In fact, it would have been around the same era, him and I, fierce student leader opponents deployed by different political parties. We never ever agreed, not even one day politically. However, he's managed to navigate public, private sector, entrepreneurship, so on and so forth. It is for this precise reason that DSA finds it quite prudent that we invite true stories, not television stories. We invite true stories. Someone that will tell you, hey, dan hlale MGR, buthi hlale MGR, dan hlale MGR 1, MGR 2, end. Okay? We come from, my first responsibility as a student leader, then he block rep handing out toilet paper. I was proud of it. Every Tuesday, I'm handing out toilet paper. It's my responsibility. My block, not my res, my block has entrusted me with the duty of handing out toilet paper. Sounds quite simple. But then I did it equitably. If each room was getting 2, I did not keep 6 in my room. I did it equitably. Today, we're short of leaders that can distribute public resources equitably. This student parliament needs to provide a panacea towards those social ills. President Soglu.
On a lighter note, program director, so as I recall it, I think I'm slightly senior. As I recall it, and I think President Mzinzi sitting there can attest to what I'm saying. Program Director, thank you so much. I acknowledge you. Honorable Vice Chancellor and Principal, Prof. Nhlapo, my colleague at Council, and also my chairperson at the Student Services Committee of Council, Dr. Mapena, the DVC, and the rest of the executive members of management that are here, Prof. Mayende, Mam Nonkosi. I've adopted this name because all the students are calling you Mam Nonkosi, so you are also Mam Nonkosi. And all the members of management. Colleagues, I greet you all, but more importantly, the student leaders. As I'm greeting students, because we are here to talk to student leaders, I want to also specifically, I see, if I have not acknowledged you, don't hold me outside and say I'm overlooking or undermining you, but I'm acknowledging my own generation now. I see there my former president. So I say former president because we led at the same time. I led the then Cape Town campus SRC under the leadership of President Lukanyo Mzinzi, who was the Central SRC President. If I were to talk the stories of the world that we lived in, that is almost 20 years ago now. So probably some of you were probably doing grade 1 or even not even started school. So that shows how old we are, but we're still very passionate about giving back. Madam Dean, I'll start with you. I have told that I've got 10 minutes. I'll use only 8. My first comment is a quote by Theodore Roosevelt. He says, it's not the critic who counts. I'm not going to go on. I'm just going to take the first line. It's not the critic who counts. I think the VC did mention that there's been many attempts to establish this part of this type of environment for students. But under your leadership, this has come through. I know how passionate you've been. And to me, I really commend you and your leadership for being able to. Obviously, you would not have done it without the tolerance of students and cooperation. But I think your wisdom and leadership has really been able to ensure that this happens. To the student leaders, the program director speaks about the principles. So I want to add as well. One, siyafunda, meaning that we study. Two, siyapasa, meaning that we pass. Three, siyapata, meaning that we govern. They go in that chronological order. You don't govern, pass, then learn. It doesn't work like that. You study, you pass, then you govern, or you lead. Coming to my message for today, I've got a couple of pointers that I want to just share, but maybe just to journey and reflect on some of the things that I think are pivotal for us as the student parliament to look out for. If we were to look back at the university environment, it's the evolution of student formations and the evolution of the student body. We may find ourselves understanding that the significance of this parliament goes far beyond having a student representative council, because that is the apex of governance within the student formation or student governance level. But it's about ensuring that, one, you are able to create an environment where social cohesion can thrive among students. Two, an environment wherein you can sharpen your contradictions as student political formations coming from different ideological backgrounds, number one. But also in sharpening those contradictions, it allows you to produce the outcome that is of quality. At some times when you are leading, I know within the university, the SRC is highly politically contested, and it's especially the central SRC, it's political organizations that govern or that lead. More often than not, you may assume that your own convictions alone as a political organization are supreme, and they always be the ones that actually should be able to suffice at all means. But people, what they don't understand is that there's a difference between ideology, principle, and strategies and tactics. One of the things that you're going to need to learn in this parliament is that your ideological convictions should not be able to inhibit you to be able to open up your ears to how you are able to approach different problems that you need to solve as student leaders. Your political affiliation should not be able to close you out such that you cannot be able to function as this governance structure, which you are a body, by the way, of the entire student populace of the university. I today, sitting, having led 18 years ago in a university, I sit amongst myself in my career now as an entrepreneur. I have got business partners, strategic partners, clients that come across the political divide in when I led as a student leader. I sit and I work with people which, when I was a student leader, we never saw things the same way, but what actually assisted is the tolerance and the ability to be able to listen to the other views. Student parliament allows that opportunity. But if you're going to not be able to give student parliament the respect and the decorum that it deserves, you will have, one, an SRC that you actually mandate and support and advise that is ill-advised, that does not get the quality of inputs from the student community. Therefore, that SRC will also be able to go with what we would call back then as students, or in something that is lightweight. So the quality of the submissions and the positions that your SRC will ultimately submit to the institutional management framework, a governance framework, will be that much more lesser because you would not be doing your job as the student parliament. So remember, accountability goes both ways. It doesn't go by you being able to demand people to report to you, but accountability goes to the level of saying that what contributions does this parliament make to the broader successful stay of students while you are here, student experience, the services that students receive, the life and breadth of the university in as far as supporting the core business, teaching and learning. All of those are things that you should be able to obsess yourself about. but you then need to channel them through the structures such as the student parliament. You don't do that, you would have failed your time as a student body or as a student leader within the institutional framework. I come from a time where we used to have a student general council. Student general councils would discuss even as far as policy positions on fee increments, policy positions on student exclusions, admission policies, and so forth. This is the opportunity that you have. You have been provided that opportunity as different formations to make submissions and advise the SRC. If you don't use that, it will be at your own peril. So I think, to me, you should be able to commend and appreciate the institution in the platform that it has provided. This is your platform. It's not the platform of management, it's your platform. You need to be able to drive it and own it. But the quality of engagement will be informed by your ability and appetite to undertake your own research, your own reading, your own enthusiasm in being able to consume yourself with what is happening in higher education generally, the university, and the status quo around the world. And the program director has already mentioned, there is an apathy when it comes to leadership in the world, the country and beyond. You talk about whether it's multinationals in the private sector, you see scandals every day. You talk about government, you see scandals every day. You talk about political organizations, scandals, business, everyone. All leaders, most of them nowadays, people are even afraid to lead because of the fact there's so many scandals and so forth. And we can't shy away from the digital age, the excitement of ourselves in the digital age. What becomes of you and your contribution in that environment? How do you start to position this environment such that you are able to produce better leaders? If you understand, those of you that revere yourself as revolutionary, the evolution of youth movements and student formations to the establishment of student formations such as the SRC, who were the drivers from the mid-40s up until the early 90s and then post-democracy, all of that has been driven, informed by the status analysis that has been made by students of the situation outside the country, inside the country, outside the university environment, but using the platform. So you have a responsibility, not anyone else. My closing remark, Chair, I want to just position 3 things. Promote or heighten consciousness in this platform. Challenge yourselves intellectually. Stimulate each other's intellectual capabilities and faculties. Promote scientific research capabilities amongst yourselves. You need to be able to posit positions that you have actually well researched yourselves as student formations and come and present them here. And the democratic principles and values as leaders. I think it's very important. Respecting one race, creed, gender, sexual preference, and orientation becomes the genesis of how you are going to engage in this student parliament. I'd like to leave you with one quote, by the way, from a person who was an SRC president himself at the time at University of Fort Hare as a 21-year-old. He says, true leadership demands complete subjugation of self, honesty, integrity, uprightness of character, the courage and fearlessness, and all above or above all, a consuming of love or a consuming love of one's people. Robert Mangaliso Sobuka. Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Thanks, my current president. That's my president from the convocation. The rest I shall not address here. The rest of the fallacy. Students, 2 things from me. I think Samba Songe, we're getting some consistency in the inputs that we've had thus far. And in short, students, take your space. Badala badiniwe ngoku. Take your space. Taking your space starts with this very same parliament. President, you remind me of something now. Inputs in policy, colleagues, in the sector, in the institution from you are quite critical. There was one former student leader who was amongst us, I suppose, I must concede, a bit senior than me, we went into fee increment negotiations. Indeed, he was senior. And he then advised, he said, I was SRC then. He said, hey, comrades, go there. The management wants to increase fees. 12% increase. Go there. Demand a 2% fee decrement. Those were the engagements. Those were inputs to say, okay, if they want to increase by 12%, your mandate from the student is a fee decrement. Now, you will reach equilibrium around about 6%. If you're demanding a 2% fee decrement, they want a 12% fee increment. When you report back, say, okay, no, 6% fee increment, okay, we're expecting that, we are safe. And lastly, colleagues, the issue of political affiliation is quite critical versus governance responsibility. Quite a contentious issue, I must admit. But I think as well, it is quite important that we would be quite cognizant of the fact that we, as students, as a country, we rule in a democratic dispensation. Meaning that it is the public that will determine whether you occupy governance office or not. It's a similar situation in a university context. You've got a number of political, student political movements. But essentially, it is the CPUT population in its entirety that will determine whether you occupy SRC office or not. Where am I going with this? It's quite important to strike a balance between carrying the mandate of the organization. One would hope that the mandate of the organization is consistent with what the student body, with what the students at large want. If you take it to National Parliament, National Assembly, we cannot remain stubborn on party lines at the compromise of the larger society, because it is that same society that is responsible for putting us in or out of office. So, student leaders, I urge you, take up this conversation in this parliament. How do you strike the balance between addressing your party and implementing your party policies that benefit the bigger society, the bigger student body? And this really requires a certain type of mindset. How do you remain a reliable deployee? At the same time, how do you remain an effective leader that serves everyone, regardless of party political party affiliation? Colleagues, I'm going to call upon the current Central SRC President, Ms. Sinelizwi Nochikila. And I must acknowledge, colleagues, there's not many SRC presidents present. If I've missed anyone, I apologize. Mr. Lukanyo Mzinzi was a president in this institution. Kapaka mkhulu wabakubona, abakwazi. He was the second SRC president in CPUT. Colleagues, President Sinelizwi, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zwakala, for such a warm introduction. I feel less anxious, especially speaking after the VC. I felt my English bundles walking out the door. The Vice Chancellor, Prof. Nhlapo, members of the University Council, members of the Executive Management, leaders of the CPUT Convocation, central and local SRC members, student leaders from all formation and CPUT community at large, sons and daughters of the soil, I greet you all. Izwe lethu, molweni. Mine is not much today. I'm here to give a small message of support. I've been given 10 minutes, but I'll take 5 because, the shoes are killing me already. I am honored and thrilled to share this historic moment with each and every one of you today, as the university embarks on a journey that promises to be an exciting one, a journey that we certainly hope will bring about the resuscitation of student life, activism, and the overall participation of the CPUT community on the university's daily life. As the female president of the SRC at CPUT, I am overjoyed at the significant stride the university is taking towards inculcating a culture and ethos of sound and ethical governance, where transparency and accountability takes the center stage of which within we seek to take this institution. The introduction of the Institutional Student Parliament holds an immense meaning and promise for our community and the development of our student leadership. I believe so because the Student Parliament will provide a structured platform for student representatives from different student formations, societies, and the various faculties of the university to come together, raise and address concerns, shape way forwards, and advocate for students' interests effectively. It signifies a commitment to democratic principles within our university. The ISP will encourage active participation in governance, fostering a sense of responsibility and ownership amongst students towards their academic and social environment. The Parliament will facilitate the sharing of diverse perspectives and ideas, promote inclusivity and collaboration across different student groups, ensuring that all voices are heard and considered. Yes, from time to time we will vastly disagree, that I know of, on matters, and rightfully so, because the contestation of ideas is a symbolic of a thinking crop of student leaders on whom the future of this university relies. This initiative elevates student representation to an institutional level, enabling students to engage directly with university management on important matters affecting student life and academic experiences. The significance of introducing the Institutional Student Parliament during my term is very profound, as it reflects a commitment to grassroots activism, student empowerment, and the values of inclusivity and social justice espoused by those that had faith in me and deployed me into office. This milestone demonstrates the tangible impact of student activism and the potential for positive change and transformation within our institution. To those that will become members and leaders of the ISP, may your participation in the ISP, its work and operation be driven by the university's values principle, mutual respect, tolerance, ethical leadership, and most of all, accountability at all material times. May you be guided by not your personal or individual views and interests, but by those of the constituency you represent in the Parliament. May you be the embodiment of our people's aims, interests, and aspirations. To the CPUT community, I encourage each and every one of you to embrace this opportunity, engage actively in our university's governance, and shape the future of the CPUT that we envisage it to be. Together, let's harness the power of collective action and constructive dialogue to create a more vibrant and responsive academic community. As I conclude, I want to leave you with a quote from one of Africa's most prominent leaders of all time, Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe. Here's a tree rooted in African soil, nourished with waters from the rivers of Africa. Come and sit under its shade and become with us the leaves of the same branch and the branches of the same tree. I thank you.
igama lamakhosikazi. Igama lamakhosikazi. Malibongwe. Emajita andinive igama lamakhosikazi. Thank you, President. City President, Snellis Umlo Magwale. President Sotigwa, I said we're taking off now. If you're sensing the congruence, the alignment of inputs on this stage, you would swear that okay, lows out. Thank you so much, President. And colleagues, I've got a somewhat of a bias towards, I made this disclaimer. I've got a bias towards female leaders in general. Don't say you, no, not that bias. Colleagues, female leaders have been deprived of a stage, of an environment for a very long time. VC, I'm glad that CPUT has finally produced its first female president. Let's give a hand. You know, a couple of years ago, there was discussions around female emancipation, and there's no emancipation needed. Siafana, all they wanted was to be given a stage. I was invited, VC, to a country I won't mention by name. Then I went to an event, I can say it was a university in Europe. I went to an event, I was invited to an event of its management. There were about 15 individuals, one female. So my conscience said there's definitely something wrong with this. So colleagues, we need to, my English is gone. Kuyafuneka siyinyevulele sikhabe ngamanqina omane into a patriarchy in society. And that conversation, it needs to be male driven because it is male perpetuated. Colleagues, we've got, I'd just like to acknowledge the speaker from the University of Stellenbosch, the ED, Student Affairs, University of Cape Town. And I'm just, colleagues, with your permission, the president has just spoken. We've got presidents in the room that have contributed immensely to this institution. We've got former President Ngamase. We've got President Mukwena, and as I've said, we've got President Mzinzi. Can I give them 1 minute for a word of support? We'll start with President Ngamase. Hands. Do you have a roving mic? You can come up, President. In CPUT, we refer you to President. There's no former President, but we've got a current President.
Oh, thank you, Program Director, Vice Chancellor, nonke ndiyanibulisa egama lenkosi. Amen. No, the Institutional Student Parliament has indeed come a long way. And ibibhlungu kanjalo because ke siyayifuna kudala sasiyifuna nathi. So I welcome kakhulu launch and enkosi, Mama Nonkosi.
Thank you, President. President Sipho Mukwena.
Warm greetings to the Vice Chancellor, the Executive Management Program Director, acknowledgement to President Molosis, acknowledgement to all student leaders, political formations in order. My name is Sipho Mkwena, the former SRC President, was the first President of the EFF Student Command, and just to agree with all the sentiments which were shared here, Student Parliament comes a very long way. It moved from, I think, all the terms of the SRC. It's been in the corridors, and we've been trying to push it because we understood that university space is indeed an intellectual space, and once you remove the platforms for engagement, you therefore make intellectualism void. And we acknowledge that we still see former presidents, former SRC members, because the consultation of history is the first step of transformation. It's very important to see former leaders still contributing. And as a former leader who was still in the corridors of CPUT, as a product of CPUT, academically so, and within the ranks of student leadership, it's of great privilege to stand here before everyone and say that we're still here to contribute further. And yeah, I think that's the message of support we can give. We're still here, and even in the Parliament, to support when it comes to engagement, where we left our project, and so forth and so forth. So in that sense, congratulations to the Dean of Students and the entire TSA. This project has been in the pipeline for quite some time now, and thank you so much.
Thanks, President. President Lukanya.
I'm a bit short. Program Director, the President of the Central SRC, I will start with the student, Prof. Prof. Lapo and the entire university leadership, members of the Council of the University, President of Convocation, to the most important guests today, the students, I greet you all. I think it's a very emotional for me to stand here, Advocate Hub. You know, Kuhle, when we interviewed this man, this leader, this excellent leader, uyayazi usocikwa sasigushe elinye igama pha. And he came. Hayi, wayibetha i-interview. Sacela i-break. Because we knew we were going to ruffle some feathers, but we wanted to be honest, and I want you to take that as students, the honesty part, because we let, perhaps Ocikwa must mention that, you know, this process has khulisa ngengane. We came in, the first SRC didn't finish its term. We came in, actually we were the first SRC to finish the term. We came in, we have to tell old men, different fathers, that hey, the department will be one now business. There's no 10 year and 10 year, there shall be one team. So the entire year of our academic year, we're busy with interviews, building structures, building the new, stabilizing the new council. You could even navigate, even the older ones, between Cape Tech and Pentech that were not, so it was a very difficult time. So when we, fortunately for me, and I was the only one in that interview, Prof. Club, so I had to make some calls and say, no, man, this name that you gave me, it's not going to work. I'm coming with a new name. Hey, this man, he has mastered this interview, and therefore I'm not surprised. And I must say, as people who made those sacrifices to make sure that the institution is what it is, and it has grown us. I would talk for the entire era of leaders, for the first 5 years of leading CPUT, and all of them are somewhere, and I'm quite humble. And thanks for this opportunity. Thanks for this life and sacrifice that you are giving back. Because surprisingly, even our kids now are at the institutions of higher level. Thanks.
That was President Lukhanya Mzinzi. I'm getting, what do they call it in English? Is it an inferior complex? Where are the former SGs of the institution? Former SGs. Sisakona, nathi sabalekile. Okay. Yeah, just because now I'm seeing now. Okay, colleagues. There's earlier on I spoke about, I did say, in the man in sick, I'm in charge. There's a sense, VC, I said, the institution over the number of years has built a sense of identity, a sense of relatedness, a sense of resonance. It is precisely because of those three things that we've got former presidents that have honored this invite. Let's give them a hand. The VC once challenged us a couple of years ago to say, CPUT, let us converge once a year as all alumni of the institution. I think he called it was a couple of years ago. He called it homecoming. Okay? Student Parliament. Once a year, a homecoming event for whatever reason, for sports reason, so on and so forth. Colleagues, it would be erroneous of me if I didn't give a minute each to the speaker from the University of Stellenbosch, our neighbors, and from the University of Cape Town. We'll start with Stellenbosch.
Okay. Good morning, colleagues, students, staff, and Vice Chancellor. Today, as we gather under the banner of progress and unity, I am honored to stand before you on behalf of Stellenbosch University Student Parliament. As we celebrate the launch of CPUT Institutional Student Parliament, we embark on a journey that transcends boundaries, unites voices, and champions a cause dear to every student's heart: transparency and accountability. Transparency is the beacon that guides us through the murky waters of bureaucracy and secrecy. It is the light that illuminates our path towards a future where every decision, every action is laid bare for scrutiny. For it is only through transparency that trust is built, relationships are strengthened, and progress is made. Accountability, likewise, is the cornerstone upon which effective governance stands. It is the promise we make to ourselves and to each other to uphold the highest standards of integrity, to take ownership of our actions, and to stand tall in the face of challenges. For accountability is not a burden, it is our collective responsibility to ensure that the voices of the student body are not only heard, but are also acted upon. Today, as Speaker of Stellenbosch University Students' Parliament, I extend our unwavering support to our colleagues at CPUT. We stand shoulder to shoulder, united in our commitment to to promote transparency and accountability in student governance across all universities and beyond. Student Parliament is more than just a forum for discussion. It is a beacon of hope, a bastion for democracy, and a platform for change. It is where ideas are born, where voices are amplified, and where ordinary students become extraordinary leaders. It is where we learn the values of collaboration, the importance of compromise, and the strength that comes from standing together in solidarity. So, as you stand on the cusp of this new chapter in student governance, I urge you to remember why you are here. Therefore, I ask you, will you be content to merely exist within the confines of the status quo, or will you draw strength from our shared purpose? I urge you, Student Parliament of CPUT, to be bold in your vision, fearless in your pursuit of justice, and unwavering in your commitment to making your voices heard. So with open hearts, with open arms, we welcome CPUT into the fold of Student Parliament, yours in accountability, transparency, and consultative governance. Thank you.
Can we have the ED from UCT, colleagues?
Program Director, thank you very much for the opportunity to come and just share a few words to the Vice Chancellor and the Executive, student leaders, Student Parliament. I think to come to the point where you are creating an opportunity for accountability is very, very important. But I think for me, what I would like to share with you is the 3 Ps from UCT as you now begin this journey. The first P is about humanizing pedagogy, the idea of being human. Because part of this journey is for the people. But if you forget who we are, then we will definitely subvert the project. And therefore, as you enter the space, you must first see each other as human beings before anything else, and that is very, very important. The second P is what we refer to as the pedagogy of discomfort. To be part of student parliament or any governance process is a very uncomfortable. And therefore, when you are dealing with the discomfort, let's not repel it, let's embrace it, because material change takes place at the point of discomfort. And the last P is what we refer to as pneumatological pedagogy. Now, this is a very, very important one because they speak about our spirituality. The thing about our spirituality is that our sense of being here, the only something that is constant is our spirituality. It was there before the human form was there. It will be there after the human form has stopped being there. And so if you miss that part, the danger that you're going to find is that, you find these things at funeral. People will say, may your soul rest in peace. And yet there has not been any investment in that soul throughout. And so I think it is important then that we don't leave that aspect. And then lastly, I want to leave you with a quote about the truth. Schopenhauer speaks about the 3 levels of the truth, right? He says that the first level of the truth is that it is denied. And this is important in the context of student leadership because the student leadership history is that it was denied. Right? It was denied. Student leaders were not allowed to express themselves as they do legally. The second one, it is violently opposed. And student leaders, that history is out there for you to see, the violence that comes with the existence of student leaders. And the last one, then it is viewed as self-evident. And today, we are here at a university launching student parliament as a self-evident critical aspect of governance. With that, I say all the best going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We are moving towards, we are moving the program as well. We're moving towards a society of, a society that really, COVID showed us this, a society that needs collaboration, speaker. A society that, that needs coexistence. A society that needs co-creation. And to have you colleagues from, as our neighboring institutions, that's an epitome of coexistence, co-creation, and collaboration. Can I just have one item from the choir? Can this, drama, you know? Because comrades yanifela but ube indima ezafaka igwijo ngo, you know, nje into ezawusithi siya ku main speaker ngo guest speaker yethu. Yatamaya. 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 Fihlile. Yela. Fihlile. Yela. Fihlile. Hayeme, Hayeme, Hatsamai, oh Lord, Hayeme, oh Lord, Hatsamaya. Thank you. Nam ngalunga what? Will go, Lord. Colleagues, we are now going to invite our keynote speaker, Tatu Mapena, Chairperson of the Student Services Committee. and a council member in the institution. Mkhulu wanga abathathu.
Program Director. The speakers before me have taken all that I wanted to say. Probably I'll just say thank you and sit down. But for me, what they have said, I've captured a few themes. One is many years ago, and that brings memories of many years ago. The other one is 30 years. The other one is 18 years. The other one is first. The other one is female. And those themes say a lot where we are as a country or where we are as an institution. Program Director, Dr. Guhle Zwakala, Prof. Nhlapo, Prof. Mayende, Dean of Student Affairs, Ms. Nonkos Cholwane, Deputy Dean, Convoc President, Mr. Swetlikwa, President of Central SRC, the Program Director did not forget our secretary, but because Mhlambe was a president, did not speak about our secretary. So in our life we have been secretaries, SGs. We'll acknowledge bongo SG abakona no secretary abakona within our midst. SRCs from different institutions, especially I can see Stellenbosch, and I heard EUCT corner and IFE corner. I acknowledge Yona. Clubs and societies, because SRC is nothing without clubs and societies and students, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor for me to stand before you. It's indeed a profound honor to be here today. At the inaugural launch of the CPUT Institutional Student Parliament under the theme, Promoting Transparency and Accountability in Student Governance. I certainly want to express my appreciation to the Dean of Student Affairs and the organizing team for extending an invitation to address you on issues related to promoting transparency and accountability in student governance. I would also like to congratulate the Student Affairs Department on this momentous and august occasion. Research has confirmed that universities in South Africa are transitioning from autocratic hierarchical type of governance to a more democratic approach that involves the engagement of all stakeholders to different university structures. Universities are widely regarded as highly significant institutions in our society's cultural fabric. Universities are involved in the creation of knowledge and play a role in the social and economic development of society by generating new concepts, ideas, applications, and inventions. They have a crucial role in analyzing and evaluating social issues, identifying important problems, and making valuable contributions to well-informed public discussions. The ultimate aim of the university accountability process would be to guarantee the university maintains the principles and ethical practices that protect the university population. Higher education institutions have come under increasing pressure to improve accountability to their stakeholders and to disclose relevant, up-to-date, and reliable information about their performance in terms of teaching, education, research, and other activities, which aims, for example, to spread the validating of societal issues. Reliable information is essential for legitimacy and competitiveness in higher education. Transparency is a vital component of higher education's governance system because it improves decision-making and accountability. Accountability is supposed to result in establishing guarded trust in higher education among social stakeholders. However, information requires a succinct but honest presentation, otherwise it leads to information overload. Transparency is crucial in higher education as it establishes a connection of public trust between institutions and their campus communities. Universities gain political and social legitimacy through transparency, which in turn instills a sense of trust and confidence in their communities, assuring people that the institutions are fulfilling their responsibility effectively. The involvement of students in administration of higher education institutions is increasingly becoming an urgent and important matter. Students who serve as institutional participants have a vital role in the governance and management of higher education institutions. Consequently, higher education institutions are motivated to ensure that student engagement is efficient. University students' involvement in student governance is an essential prerequisite for constructing a contemporary higher education community. Undoubtedly, students play a crucial role in governance as participants. The theme, promoting transparency and accountability in governance, is befitting to explore themes such as ethical leadership, social justice, social responsibility, trustworthiness, compassionate, and integrity. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, in the preamble, refers to establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights, and lay the foundation for a democratic and open society. These principles are the epitome of transparency and accountability. Transparency and accountability are important pillars of a democratic governance in student governance. Transparency and accountability in student governance has become increasingly important across higher education landscape since the Fees Must Fall movement. Those in leadership positions are often held accountable because it is their responsibility to ensure that the best decisions are made. They are expected to set examples by adopting and encouraging ethical behaviors, given their potential influence over others. Transparency and accountability are critical for the efficient functioning of any governance structure and for fostering social cohesion. Without accountability and transparency, trust will be lacking between a governing body and those whom it governs. Accountability refers to the obligation of leaders or an institution to account for their activities, provide information about decisions and actions, explain and justify decisions, accept responsibility for them, and to disclose the results in a transparent manner. Through accountability, leaders are expected to be answerable for their actions, and most importantly, that there should be consequences when duties and commitments are not met. Transparency is a key word for contemporary governance. King Ford defines transparency as the ambiguous and truthful exercise of accountability, such as decision-making processes and business activities, outputs and outcomes are easily able to be discerned and compared with ethical standards. Transparency guarantees that information is available that may be utilized to assess the performance of authorities and prevent potential abuses of power. Transparency promotes accountability, which means that authorities may be held accountable for their role in their acts. In a democratic setting, transparency of public institutions is essential, and access to information develops citizens' trust in public institutions, enabling citizens to understand public decisions and monitor the implementation. Transparency ensures that information is available that can be used to measure the governing body's performance and to safeguard against any possible misuse of resources. And transparency serves to achieve accountability, which means that governance structures are held responsible for their actions. And without transparency and accountability, trust will be lacking between governance structures. Adequate transparency and accountability are therefore critical for ensuring that student representative councils' resources are managed for the benefit of the whole student population. Transparency in student affairs and operations allows for democratic debate and how student resources should be managed. The principles of transparency and accountability tend to achieve better student governance. To maintain their reputation and trustworthiness, student leaders are expected to act responsibly, transparently, and with integrity in the eyes of their constituents. The qualities of student leadership should include vision, respect for the law, transparent management, ethical values, and a sense of social responsibility. Ethical values are intertwined with ethical leadership. Ethical leadership is vital in shaping a governance body's ethical culture and guiding stakeholders to make ethical decisions. Ethical leadership and student governance should be critical in today's higher education setting. Student leaders should exude characters that are compassionate, just, moral, and ethically driven in how they personify leadership. The involvement of student population in student affairs should not only be limited to the right to vote, but also to activities of student parliament. Effective participation in student governance requires information on issues to enable the students to be involved. The student parliament mantra should involve obtaining information about issues that affect the lives of students and the activities of clubs and societies. I hope you'll allow me to lay out what I feel could be a few critical strategies to promote transparency and accountability. Firstly, recognizing cultural differences and biases. Providing opportunity for participants to openly address cultural differences as well as acknowledge, learn from, and reflect on both unconscious and explicit forms of bias is another key aspect of transparency in organizing, participation, and equality efforts. Transparent and respectful discussions of cultural differences and biases relate to race, culture, social economic status, gender, sexual orientation, and other identities can help to promote more honest conversation and foster connection, trust, and a stronger sense of solidarity amongst participants. Secondly, allowing all participants to be heard. Providing chances for all members of a community or group to express their opinions, needs, concerns, and objectivities is an essential component of effective organizing, engagement, and equality of work. Indeed, a public institution, organizing effort, or a community decision-making process cannot be deemed transparent if key voices and opinions are overlooked, ignored, discarded, dismissed, or belittled. Thirdly, providing full and unrestricted access to essential information. One of the pillars of transparency is free access to critical information, particularly information that a student community requires to understand how their institution operates and performs. Higher education legislation and regulation require university structures to follow transparency policies. Lastly, communicating quickly, proactively, and thoroughly. Genuine transparency is proactive, which means that leaders, organizers, and facilitators provide critical information as it becomes available, rather than only in reaction to specific requests or demands from stakeholders. Because the community may not be aware of what information is available or relevant or any given issue, organization groups and public institutions are not fully transparent when they expect the community to seek out information and then justify without essential information by claiming the community never requested it. Members-elect, as you assume office, you must be aware not to be consumed by the title you will be holding and forget the purpose of why you are serving in the student parliament. Titles are just titles. What is important is how you discharge the responsibility given to you in a transparent and accountable way. I remember the words of St. Francis of Assisi when he said, "Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love." It is important for you to say, "Lord Almighty, make me your instrument of good governance. Guide me to understand that good governance is about doing what is always ethically right. Help me to act with integrity and impartiality. Help me to be honest and diligent, to treat students with respect, to always act lawfully, and to provide leadership." The book of Proverbs 22 verse 1 reads, "Choose a good reputation over great riches. Being held in high esteem is better than silver or gold." Therefore, members elect, to ensure that you advance the interests of the student community it is important that you are transparent and accountable to them. You should strive to be participatory and transparent in how you govern. You must be guided by the principle of the rule of law that enables you to promote transparency and accountability. Again, let me take this opportunity to congratulate all members-elect on their swearing in. I am sure that they will immerse themselves in rigorous transparency and accountability in advancing the objectives of student governance. In conclusion, Program Director, I will remind members-elect of the words in the scripture that says, "O divine master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, it is in dying to self that we are born to eternal life." These words will help them understand that their role as servant of the student instead of being masters of the student. Those words will also help them not to be consumed by the title they hold and forget the purpose of why they were elected to office. As I said, titles are just titles. What is important is how you discharge your responsibility. In closing, I would like to quote Aristotle when he said, "Educating the head without educating the heart is no education at all." Thank you.
Wow. Profound. Profound, colleagues, indeed. Yeah, I think siyavumelana, student, isn't it? I think the foundations of this student parliament have been set from this session. Your founding principle, so to speak, I'm not sure if you've got an existing guiding document yet, but certainly I trust that you will incorporate all these valuable inputs, especially from our keynote speaker, Dr. Mapen Siabulela. Hence, a round of applause again. From what you said, the issue of essentially diversity. I think I touched on it a bit earlier on. Diversity, as far as culture is concerned, as far as race is concerned, sexual orientation, religion, tribe, so on and so forth, and stuff like that. I said earlier on, solutions to societal ills, they lie with you, students. That's the main job of a university. When I'm saying societal issues, I'm including the corporate sector, the private sector, entrepreneurial challenges. All of those encompassed together, the solutions of those different corners of society, they lie with you, students. Hence the reason I then challenged you to take up your space in society. Hence I challenged you to be intellectually radical. Intellectually radical. Because when you are, then you'll have the solutions to this. Today, we're sitting with certain corners of society, certain old people, by the way, that garner and galvanize support based on tribe, based on race. And those people think that they can take this country forward. We must condemn that as students and as young people of this country. Gathering based on tribe or race, it refutes diversity. galvanizing based on race or tribe or whatever the case is, it erodes the gains of democracy. So therefore, students, I challenge you to take up your space in society. Give us solutions, because now I think I'm falling to that old part now. But not yet. Give us solutions. Abantu abadala don't have solution. They don't have solutions. They had solutions at your age. That's the sacred space of a university. What distinguishes you is the ideas that you have. Some of you live here, get employed, solve business problems because intellectually you are capacitated. 65-year-olds, 70-year-olds and above, solutions for you, 25-year-old. So I'm saying, Doc, I fully concur with you. We should be tolerant of diversity, and ultimately we should embrace diversity. That will take us forward as a country. Kwaye, ngicela one more item. Siyalenda ngo. This flight has been smooth. There's been no turbulence. Okay, just give us one more item, and then we will call upon the TVC. Thank you, Kwaya. As I've said, I'm more than capable of joining you. Just give me, well, can I get membership form? Then, and then I'll join you. As I was saying, colleagues, we are lending. As the pilot now, I'm lending. We're going to call upon the DVC, Prof. Maenda, azobulela yonke libiyenzo pa namhlanje. Prof.
Program Director, Vice Chancellor, allow me to observe protocol when I thank and acknowledge the various roles played by our guests who are here amongst us, as well as others who might not be here. So I will do that when I run through my words of thanks towards the end of my input. Allow me, Program Director, to just make a couple of quotes. The first one is from a gentleman named Clement Attlee, who was a Prime Minister of Britain from 1945 to 1951. He was a leader at the same time of the Labour Party in that country. He said the following: I believe that the foundation of democratic liberty is a willingness to believe that other people may be wiser than oneself. And let me follow that with a quote from Barack Obama, who was the first Black president of the United States, and he served in that capacity from 2009 to 2017. He said the following, and I quote, "Democracy can only endure when it is bigger than just one person." And he also said, and I quote, "Our democracy needs you, not only when there is an election, but over the full span of a lifetime." The common thread, Program Director, that runs through these quotations is that there will always be a need over and above the level of an individual for people to engage in contestation, debates, and discussions in a forum that enables them to share ideas, present analytical perspectives, construct and deconstruct phenomena. And Program Director, I was happy as I move now to my acknowledgements, when you included the Secretary Generals, because that reminded me of a time, and this was 1983 to 1984, when I held a similar position. I know I'm revealing my age now. And I'm happy also that you are saying young people are those who generate and who are the purveyors of ideas and solutions. Vice Chancellor, I would like to convey words of thanks to you, indeed, for your leadership, which has already been acknowledged by most of the speakers on this podium. But I wish to really, in so doing, highlight what I believe is a poignant and very important aspect of your leadership, which is that you lead from the front, but also you are not afraid to get your hands dirty and to drill down to the very bottom of issues. And that is one of the reasons why we're here today. It is precisely because of that aspect of leadership that this institution has had the privilege of having and enjoying from you, sir. Dr. Mapena, your tenure has not been long at CPUT, but already we're beginning to feel its impact, the impact of your leadership, especially your steady guiding hand that you are showing and demonstrating to all of us who are members of the committee that you are leading, but in particular to the student leadership. Your firm and fair disposition and approach to business is much appreciated. Mr. Sokigwa, our convocation president, indeed you are one of the shining lights in our institution, and we see you almost in all our major activities in this institution. You have described yourself as an entrepreneur, and I can imagine that you are a very busy person, but you always find time to be with us. And I can see that you are determined never to let go. Thank you so much. Registrar Mr. Mukwena, I'd like to thank you on behalf of all of us for the guidance that you are always there to provide to us, and indeed for the role that you played in guiding this very process that is culminating in today's occasion. As our custodian of governance within our institution. Fellow members of executive management here present and also those who are not here, I thank you for your role at the forefront of the management of our institution. And then to our guests, the Executives Director, Student Affairs, thank you very much, sir, for gracing our occasion and for the words of wisdom that you have shared with us. Officials from UWC, from WSU, the Speaker of the Parliament of Stellenbosch University. Indeed, I hope that the words that you shared with your colleagues today have had the right resonance and will echo in those chambers where they will be engaging as a student parliament. And I hope also that you will continue to provide support and assistance to our fledgling student parliament. Our Dean of Student Affairs, Mam Nonkosi, I don't know whether I should also say Mama, but that's how we are called here in this institution. Ms. Cholwana, thank you so much for the energy, really, that you have demonstrated as you have guided this process. Not only energy, but also tenacity that you have exuded and also demonstrated. I'm aware of so many instances where this matter has been discussed, and I could see the sense of urgency as you gave us your presentations, and indeed today is the culmination of all those efforts. President of the SRC, thank you so much for your leadership. I need not spoil the words of our program director. Indeed, we are honored in this institution to have a young woman at the helm of student leadership. That is sending a very clear signal across the length and breadth of our country and beyond that we're serious as an institution when it comes to issues of gender. And for that, I must thank the students, because it is not us as management who elected you, but it was your peers and contemporaries as students in this institution. I would like to thank the student structures, societies, and clubs, peer educators, helpers, and ushers, our SRC at both central and local level, the paralegal students, the student volunteers, and indeed, Advocate Harper, it is very pleasing to see you still surfacing from wherever you are and coming over to join us. It is indeed a singular honor for us as an institution to realize that you have not forgotten us. All staff who have played a role in making today's occasion a success, our students, governance staff, those who have provided services, some of those services behind the scenes, MCD, our communications directorate, and last but not least, Mr. Mark Peterson, who is our scribe for today. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's anyone that I may have omitted, but please be assured that you are also acknowledged and thanked. With those words, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to stand down and hand over back to the program director. Thank you.
What Prof. Mind is forgetting to mention is that as a student leader, he arrived a year later than me. So I led before him. Colleagues, we are done now. I'm going to request the following. Whilst the choir is giving us an item. There was good. All right, we're going to give space to our flag bearers to exit, whereafter the guests on stage, whilst the choir is giving us an item. After the procession, VC's delegation on stage will then, the first row will follow. Okay. Then the rest of the colleagues, there's an announcement that needs to be made. It's a very, very important announcement. We've been here for some time. Okay. So colleagues, once the choir is giving us an item, the stage will leave, and then the first row will then follow us, and then just wait for the announcement. Choir, over to you.
Ukhanya kwesibani ukhanya kwesibani 1 2 ukhanya kwesibani uqala kwesiqalo esisha sempilo ukuguquguquka kwemizwa yabasondayo hlezi abanye bembeka amabala bakhohlwa ukuthi mabembeka amabala andisa amabala engwe hlezi nengwe idla ngamabala ayo. Ukhanya kwesibane. Ukhanya kwesibane mhla kukhanya isibane. Uqala kwesiqalo sempilo entsha. Uqala kwesiqalo sempilo entsha. Ukupheqeka kwekhasi lempilo entsha. Hlezi abanye bembeka amabala bakhohle ukuthi mabeka amabala bona bayigosa ngowabo ngoba ingwe idla ngamabala ayo. Le eyokhanya. Lena eyokhanya inkondlo. Lena eyokhanya. Ukuduma kwezulu kokudumala kwesalukazi esidala esibambe ngezansi hlezi sidumele simangele ukuthi la suphondo ligobe kanjani. Ukuduma kwezulu kokudumala kwentombi endala ngoba imangele ukuthi laso uphondo lugobe kanjani. Mhla kuvela ukhanya. Ayehla amathambo abheke ezansi, ayenyuka amathambo abheke phezulu. Ukwehlela ngezansi hlezi nendle egagisi yanetha. Ukwehlela ngezansi kwentombi endala ibambo ngezansi imangele ukuthi kwenzeke kanjani. Mhla kuvela ukhanya. Mhla kuvela ukhanya.
Lena. Lena.
Colleagues, you can just go out for a minute and refresh yourself. The MPs will come back at 1, or let's make it 12:30. MPs can come back, and thank you for those that embrace us for this welcoming. Only MPs that will come back after 12:30. Thank you.